Hi all, welcome to our YouTube channel. So today I'm planning to explain you about the machine learning, okay, in very basic and very, I think, I would simple way, right? I'm trying to explain you what is machine learning, okay? This is just a ad hoc video I'm preparing, right? It's not part of any of our playlist, okay? I have got one story actually, and I thought it can relate well with machine learning. It is kind of a real life story, right? So, what I'll do first, maybe we will hear a story, right? So, the story is about a village, okay? There was a village which had around, let's say, 600 houses, right? And let's say some 2,000 people were living in the village, right? So, most of the people they were doing farming, okay, and few were kind of daily wage laborers in the farm, okay. So basically, this village had no grocery shop in it, okay. So if villagers wanted to buy the grocery, they had to go to a city center which was around, let's say, 10 kilometers from the village, right? So grocery, okay, if they wanted to buy a grocery, they had to go to city center, right? Which was, let's say, 10 kilometers from the village, right? And that was um, kind of happening for, I would say, many years. Okay. They went to city center to, bring the groceries, right? Now, one of the evenings, now, if you know, in the village, in the evening, people do sit in together, right? They have a chat, right? लोग बैठते हैं, लोग बातें करते हैं, right? And then they go their home for a dinner, right? So once like people were sitting, village people were sitting, and many villagers discussed this issue, right? And said like, if someone within a village can start the grocery shop, right? The I think the efforts of villagers, right, to go 10 kilometers to buy the grocery would be saved, right? उनको 10 किलोमीटर जाना नहीं पड़ेगा अगर विलेज में ही कोई अपना ग्रोसरी शॉप खोल ले, राइट? Okay, this was just a normal discussion, okay? One of the you know there was one of the, I would say, a graduate citizen of that village, a graduate young boy. His name was Ganesh, right? He was also part of that discussion. Okay. So what happened? He got an idea. I mean, he took it like the problem statement, right? He took it like the problem. So the problem statement was to buy groceries. To buy groceries, villagers had to go, let's say, 10 kilometers from village, right? So this, I think he just got the problem statement and he was like kind of educated, right? He thought like, let's give it a try, okay? He started gathering the information. He told the villagers, okay, let me try. I will start a grocery shop in the village, right? Now, what he did, he went to city center, right? Now, Ganesh went to city center, okay? Ganesh went to city center. Now there, what happened? He just looked, right, what all items are present in city center. Okay, he could list down around 50 items, right? He could list down around 50 items from city center. Okay, and there he he waited outside the city center. There were the basically what happens in grocery shop, the wholesale, let's say, some tempo comes in, right, from wholesale shop, and they give all the needed materials, all the needed groceries to the city center, right? So what happened? He waited outside. Okay, he got that wholesale person also, the wholesale tempo he got. He told them that I want, let's say, these 50 items. Okay, so let's say 200 each, right? 200 pieces of these pieces of 50 items, right? And basically that wholesaler, that person who was giving the items to city center, he said like, it generally takes, let's say, 2 days time. Okay, and on third day he will receive, on third day he will receive the items, right? Ganesh gave him the advance and he said, okay, give me these 50 items, 200 pieces each. Okay, just a random, right? He gave the random number. Okay, and he said, give me these items in my village. Okay, now on third day, Ganesh got these 50 items, right? 200 pieces of each item, and he got total, I would say 50 items in his shop, right? Now, what Ganesh started this shop, okay? He kept these 50 items in the shop, okay? And maybe let's say after 5 to 6 days, what happened? Those 200 pieces, right? 200 pieces of each item. We are just assuming, right? 200 pieces of each item got exhausted, right? Got exhausted, right? Now if Ganesh gave order to the wholesaler again, right? Again, wholesaler told him it will take, okay, it will take 2 days time, right? So for, let's say, for 2 to 3 days, for 2 to 3 days, the grocery shop, okay, the grocery shop was, I think, had no item, you can say, had no item to sell, right? So this was one of the problem. Okay. This thing, Ganesh, this, I would say, this repetition, right? Or this, we can call it a pattern, right? Ganesh observed for 2 to 3 weeks, right? He observed it 2 to 3 weeks. Like, okay, on an average it is taking 2 days time. Let's say if I am giving an order today, right? Today is what, 14th of December. Okay, it is taking 2 days, 15th and 16th, and he is getting the order delivered on 17th, right? So in 2 to 3 weeks he observed this pattern. Okay, now what Ganesh did from this observation, right? Observation, okay, and action taken, for example, right? What he did, he started giving the order, right, to the wholesaler, to the wholesaler 3 days in advance, 3 days in advance. Okay, and what he did, like, he gave he started giving, let's say, he started giving order to wholesaler, right, when he exhausted, let's say, 70% of his stock, 70% of his stock. Okay, that means he had 200 pieces of each item. Okay, when he sold 140 items, okay, then and there only he gave orders to wholesaler. Okay, now as a result of this, this 2 3 days buffer, right, that Ganesh had no items to sell in these 2 3 days, right? Because earlier he was giving the order to wholesaler when all of his items were exhausted, right? Now if Ganesh is giving order in advance, so he has these 50 items always he has with him to sell, right? So here Ganesh thought, like, there was no, let's say, we can call it idle period, right? Idle period. Ganesh had 50 items, okay, always available, right, in his shop. Okay, in his shop. Now here Ganesh thought the problem is solved, right? Problem is solved. Fine. Now what happened after a few days? Um, Villagers came to Ganesh, right? A few villagers came to him and they asked him if he has the item which is not from those 50, right? Let's say they asked him about the tea powder, right? Tea powder that we use to make a tea. Okay, this tea powder was not amongst the 50 items that Ganesh thought initially, right? When he went to city shop and when he did his observation, right? And I think many such items he observed. I think 2 to 3 items were there. Let's say another is, I would call it the let's say the washing soap, for example, right? The washing soap, right? And the shampoo, right? For example, these three items were not amongst the 50 items thought he thought as a list initially, right? So what happened? Ganesh again thought here is a problem. He is missing few items, right? What he did, he went back to villagers, right? Went back to villagers and asked for feedback, right? Feedback as in he told them, see, I have these 50 items, okay? I have these 50 items in the shop, right? Do tell me what other items our villagers are needing apart from those 50, right? He got 30 new items, right? 30 new item from villagers, okay? From villagers. Now Ganesh started buying 80 items, right? 80 items, and he was like giving the order 3 days in advance. So he started buying 80 items, right? Now, I think for around few months, right? Few months, the shop was stable, right? Few months, the shop was stable. Now, the village administrator, what happened after a few months, they decided that we can have a weekly market in the village, right? So weekly market as in every week, instead of buying the groceries and vegetables on ad hoc basis, right? Someone is going to buy daily, right? They said like let's have a weekly market in the village. Few people from outside the village also can come to us, can buy a vegetable from us, right? And we will also buy the groceries, all the groceries that they are needing for a week. Okay. Okay, I think that was the decision made, and Ganesh did not give a thought that time. Okay, because many people from outside village also started coming to their village now. Okay, so what happened? The weekly market was decided. Let's say on Thursday, right? On Thursday, after couple of Thursdays, Ganesh started facing the issue of human resources, issue of workers, right? Issue of workers. So what happened? Many people outside the village also, those were nearby, came to his shop and they started buying groceries, right? So he started facing issue of human workers, right? There were multiple buyers, but Ganesh and let's say his family members, let's say 2 to 3 family members were there, but those were not sufficient. And also the items he bought, right, also were not sufficient, right? Because demand gone up, right? Not sufficient to, let's say, the solve the weekly market demand. Okay, so what happened? Ganesh observed this for let's say 2 weeks, right? He observed this for 2 weeks, for example. And then what he decided on Thursday, he will keep, let's say, three more people, okay, people ready to serve buyers, okay, in the shop, and for Thursday, he will buy, let's say, 100 items more, okay, 100, let's say 100 items, right? Each. So he had 80 items in each shop, right? That was he decided. So for 80 items, he bought 100 pieces, I would say. 100 pieces for each item, only for Thursday. So this 200, right? Initial 200 he was buying, right? But only for Thursday, he bought 100 pieces more. Now, for Thursday market, he gave the order in advance, right? So Thursday, if he wanted, let's say, these more 100 pieces of all 80 items on Wednesday, he was to give order on Sunday, right? So he gave order on Sunday, right? For weekly market, for weekly market, and for daily needs, let's say, okay, and for daily needs he was giving order when 70% of his stock was exhausted, right? We have seen it here. Ganesh learned this here, right? And he, for daily needs, he was giving the order when 70% of his stock got exhausted, right? 70% means what? He has 200 pieces of each item. So when he exhausted, or when he sold 140 items, that time he gave the order, right? So that there will be no idle time in the village, right? Now, and now, after all this happened, again shop became stable. Again, shop became stable, right? And Ganesh thought now the problem is solved, right? But after a few days, what happened? Due to this stability, Ganesh got more demands from multiple villages, right? So people, instead of going to city center, this village was nearby to them. Okay. So many people started coming. Okay. And again, Ganesh started facing the, due to, let's say, due to increasing demand, Ganesh started facing the stock issue, right? And the, let's say, human resources issue also, right? Human resources issue and space issue, right? His shop was in very small place, right? To, to I think accommodate this, what Ganesh did, he thought, let's open the village center maybe, or village groceries center, right? With bigger space, right? More people to work, and more pieces, right? More pieces of, let's say, 80 items only. Okay. So let's say earlier Ganesh had one room, right, of, let's say, 15 by 15, right? Now Ganesh got a showroom kind of thing, okay, which was, let's say, 100 by 100, right? 100 by 100 square feet, for example, right? And he had earlier three people working, right? Three human resources, right? Now he has, let's say, nine human resources, right? Nine human resources in his village grocery center, right? And earlier he was buying, let's say, 200 pieces for ad hoc needs, right? And 100 pieces for weekly market. Now what he has done, he has started buying by default 500 pieces, right? For all his needs, right? For all his needs, okay? And this way, through this journey, if you understand this problem, where villagers just discuss in the evening discussion that this is the problem, they are it is becoming hard for them to go 10 kilometers to buy groceries, okay? And now, after, let's say, a year, or after 1.5 year, there is a village grocery center that got started in the village, right? Around nine human resources got the employment, right? And the problem of villagers got solved, right? So this is the journey of, let's say, a small entrepreneur, Ganesh, okay? Now I will ask, okay, how this story is relevant to machine learning, okay? This is the story, this is exactly what machine learning does, okay? How? I'll let you know, okay? Now, we have Ganesh here, right? If we consider Ganesh as, let's say, a machine learning system, right? Machine learning system, okay? Then we have, let's say, data with Ganesh, right? So he had, let's say, grocery items data initially, right? Then he got that updated. 50 items he started, keeping in this in his shop initially. Then he upgraded to 80 items, right? And the villagers feedback, right? Villagers feedback, okay? It is like, we are giving feedback to the ML model, Okay, we are just considering these things. I'll let you know. Okay, now, what is machine learning? Basically, if I tell you the definition, machine learning is the, let's say, a simple computer system, right? Computer system or application, okay, which learns from past data, okay, improves with feedback, improves with feedback, okay, and makes better decisions based on patterns observed, based on patterns observed. Okay, this is machine learning. Now, if I see this kind of a definition, it is computer system or application which learns from past data. Okay, so here Ganesh had this data. What data Ganesh had? That there is a need of grocery. First, he had a problem statement. He had some motivation to start, let's say, an ML application. Okay, so what data he had? Let's say Ganesh is a machine learning application. Okay, to this machine learning application, we fed this data, that initially, whatever data we observed, whatever data we got, we fed to this machine learning model saying we need 50 items, let's say 200 pieces of 50 items. Okay, this initial data, right, this initial data, we call it as, let's say, training data. We call it as training data. Okay, now through this training data, the Ganesh shop was stable for few days, right? And then what he observed a pattern, right? Whenever he had to put an order to a wholesaler, it was taking 2 days time, right? So this was the pattern observed. Okay, what was pattern? Let's say pattern observed. A wholesaler, okay, taking 2 days time to deliver the order, for example, right, to Ganesh shop, whatever his need was. Okay, now from this pattern observed, what my model means Ganesh, what he did as a result to this, my ML model, okay, which is Ganesh, started giving recommendation, recommendation, okay, to place the order to wholesaler, okay, wholesaler, let's say 3 days in advance, 3 days in advance, right? So based on this pattern, our model learned something, right? Based on the initial data, we started the model. Based on one of the patterns observed, my model learned something, and it started giving the recommendation. And based on that recommendation, again, let's say ML application, okay, ML application, which is Ganesh grocery shop, became stable, right? Now, again, there was a change. Okay, there came the weekly market thing, right? There came the weekly market thing. Where is that? I think no. Before weekly market, I think he observed the problem, right? That he was lacking the items. So around 50 items he had in each shop, right? And then he got a feedback. Okay. So this feedback from villagers, we can call it, we are passing the feedback to ML model, right? So this model that is earlier developed, right, based on training data, based on the 50 items, we passed on feedback to this model that no, this is not sufficient, the training data that you have got is not sufficient, you need some more data, right? So what we did, let's say we retrained the model, right? We retrained the model for 80 items, right? Instead of 50 items, now it has 80 items. Okay, now again model become stable, right? Again, next pattern observed was weekly market. Okay, huge demands, huge demands on, let's say, Thursday, right? And based on that pattern observed, again, as a result of this, the Ganesh, which we are considering as ML model, started giving recommendation that the stock for Thursday weekly market. Thursday weekly market should be bought on Sunday, right? The order should be placed on Sunday, and the stock should be different from what you are needing for your daily needs, right? So this pattern was observed, and this recommendation my ML model gave me, right? And again, we thought it became stable for a few days or few months, right? And then as the demand went up, right? Uh, Ganesh got increasing demand. So my ML application got some increasing demand, right? There was need to, let's say, increase the resources needed, right? So that resources needed also were increased, and now based on the, and this demand increase was again based on the pattern, right? So what was next pattern observed? Next pattern was demand increase, right? And based on demand increase, my ML model, which I am calling a Ganesh, it gave a recommendation to start the village, right? Village grocery shop having bigger space, more people, and more pieces of 80 items, right? So this is how ML model also. ML is like what a simple, you know, application or computer system which learns from fast data, right? It improves with feedback, right? And it starts making better decision based on the patterns it is observing, right? So now Ganesh first got 50 items, right? He started groceries shop, right? So groceries shop is basically our grocery shop, okay, is an application, okay. Now if my ML model gave me uh, the recommendation that they're observing a pattern where wholesaler is taking 3 days, right, to give an or to deliver the order. So ML application gave recommendation again saying, okay, place the order in advance, right? Then we thought the application became stable, but that was not the thing, right? The training data that we received in the start, which was the 50 items, right, was not sufficient, okay. Then we again retrained our model on 80 items. Retrained means we increase the data, right? um, then again we thought our application became stable. Then new pattern observed, right? Huge demands on Thursday based on weekly market, and then this recommendation that for Thursday stock should be separate, okay. And based on the previous pattern, right, the order should be given 3 days in advance, right? And then again next pattern observed, the demand got increased, right? When people from other villages also started coming to the shop, right? And based on this pattern, maybe he observed it for, let's say, a few weeks, and from this pattern he got a recommendation to start the big village grocery center, right? It is as equals to as how particular ML model works, how machine learning. See, machine learning basically is the machine is learning, right? Machine learns from past data, machine learns from the patterns that are observed, and it is same as, see, human, as a human also we have few past experiences, right, based on which we take decisions, okay, we recommend ourselves. In the same way, right, machine learning model provides recommendation based on the data feed to that model as in a simple computer application, or you call it a computer system, right? Based on data feed to that model, it creates, it observes the patterns in the data, right? And it starts giving the recommendation, right? Sim Not similar, but like how we human recommends ourselves, right? So this is exact analogy how machine learning works and what is machine learning, right? I wanted to explain you through this story because I thought this story is really similar to how we develop a machine learning model, right? So I hope this was an interesting video, right? And you got to know what is machine learning, okay, in simple words, right? Fine, that's all for this video. If you have any feedback, do let me know, right? Do like, share, subscribe if you feel this is useful, okay. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.